solidarity. A lot of people have found some solidarity or lack thereof as it relates to Dave Chappelle's comedy special, The Closer. Now, I think we had made reference to this last week, but for those of you who are just tuning in, there were talks about Netflix employees walking out or staging a walkout, especially over some of the comments about the trans community that Dave made in the special. And so, T, what do you think about this? Do you feel like it's justified? Do you feel like it's going overboard? Do you feel like there's a middle ground here? And like, how do you feel like Netflix is going to respond?
Yeah, bro. I think if anyone really looks at the demands from the trans and non-binary activists and allies that are walking out, I think it would be hard to say that it is ridiculous or not justified. I think it's even crazier that there are counter protesters, bro. Like, there were people outside, or there were people right adjacent to like the protesters holding signs that say jokes are funny. Like, how much time do you have in your day to go protest a protest in defense of Dave Chappelle? Like, I can understand you feeling that way, possibly, but to how strong do you have to feel to go out there to be like, oh, you're killing comedy, jokes are funny, you guys need to go somewhere? Like, nah, bro. But let me shine the light on these activists that are protesting and walking out. I just want to highlight a few of their demands, and I want our brewers to let us know if it is justified, right? Like this, I think that these make sense to me. So one of the demands were content investment. That was a theme of it, and they wanted Netflix to create a fund to specifically develop trans and non-binary talent and programming. I think that's fair.
Right.
They asked Netflix to hire trans and non-binary content executives, especially Black and people of color, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, and not only content executives but higher ups. Like, I forgot exactly, executives nonetheless. They also asked to for Dave Chappelle and other transphobic imagery around the office, whether that be like swag, like paraphernalia, or just like banners and things around the office and murals. They asked for that to be taken down. They asked for a disclaimer before the closer, as well as other things that they might deem transphobic, homophobic, or misogyny or hate speech. They just asked for a disclaimer to be added to these different titles. And then they also asked for, when we are putting those disclaimers on these things, that to suggest that Netflix, their algorithm, for it to suggest trans affirming content alongside the content that was flagged as anti-trans. And I think that that is so beautiful. And when I think about like abolition democracy, it's a twofold thing. It's like, okay, we need to call out what is anti, like, but we also need to put something in its place. So it's like, okay, not only are we labeling this like not good, but let's show you what is good. And like, hopefully someone will choose that and would love to like understand the trans identity a little bit more, because I think that people could walk away from the closer and not really understand it, right? And it caused a lot of hoopla and a lot of drama in these protests. But for them to get a better understanding and get a positive understanding of trans identity, I think that's super important.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. And I think a really cool piece of some of those things is, like you just said, the affirming piece, because I had never even thought, like, with my particular blinders, like, about having trans affirming content that's like very explicit and saying that and mentioning that on Netflix, right? Like, I know that Netflix suggests a lot of things to me as a Black person, and it's like, even if they don't say it, it's like it's obvious that this is, I'm getting these shows and these comedies and these movie suggestions because of my Blackness. But I think they might even say it explicitly sometimes, like, here, like, this is black romance comedies, or like urban comedies and stuff like that. So I think that it's very good in that sense. And then I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about the not having Dave Chappelle stuff or promo around the office and stuff like that. And I'm just like, okay, well, Dave Chappelle he is problematic. But to what length do we like say, oh, we're gonna erase him from the office? But then I
Mm,
started thinking, well, like maybe it's not the exact same thing, but it is maybe similar. Like, how would I like, a Confederate hero,
yeah.
sort of being all around the office because he has like a war movie out. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And like, how would it feel for me to have to sit with that every day while people are counter protesting, while people are
Mhm.
online, going full in. And so I like a lot of these, suggestions, and like they don't, even from a more radical perspective, they don't even seem like too big of an ass. It seems like a
Yeah.
step one.
Absolutely. It definitely seems like they're working with Netflix, right? Because Netflix said we're not pulling the special. So I don't even, when I looked through the demands, I didn't even see them re-ask for that. I think they came back to the table like, okay, well, since you're not gonna do this, how about these things? And I, just like you said, I think that those are very reasonable. And I really like the comparison and analogy to like the Confederate and like the war hero, right? Because somebody might want to see that, and it might be hard for us to really block that movie from happening, right? But I do think it would be very possible to be like, hey, look, that makes me uncomfortable and I deserve to feel comfortable in my workplace.
Right.
And I think it's a very neutral thing to say, like, let's not have it in the workplace. Let's make sure that everybody's comfortable, and we can have things that we either mutually agree on or nothing on the walls, right? And I think that, like, who would say no to that? I think that you would, it's like choosing not to call someone their pronouns, right? You're actively choosing violence. And I think that that puts somebody in a position to really expose who they really are. So I think that Netflix has to come to the table and agree to most or all of these demands. And let's just say all of them.
Right, right, absolutely, yeah. And it's funny that you say that you're talking about that, because it reminds me of, I was just telling you about this pre-show. Like, I literally left the academic space this week because someone in there made me uncomfortable, not necessarily because of what they had done to me, but what they had done to other people allegedly.
Mhm.
And I think that it was just one of those moments where it's like, I'm not doing this. I can't like bump this. I left, and so I think even, we sometimes we think our experiences are so much different from other people, and it's just like, not just like look at the world through that lens and then apply their discomfort to like what makes you uncomfortable in your own world and space. And so I think
Yeah,
I think people got to sort of down to that level. When's the last time you were uncomfortable in the workspace, and like, did you have the power to advocate for yourself or to step away from it? And if so, then you should be able to appreciate what these employees are asking for.
yeah,
So yeah, man. Yes. Shout out to those workers at Netflix. We hope that Netflix works with you all and meets those demands accordingly.